Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about why it's so common to see guitarists using overdrive pedals in front of already overdriven amps. Now, if you're new to the world of pedals or just don't play genres that require a really high gain tone, then this might sound a bit counterintuitive, but it's done for a very good reason. So let's talk about what that is. I've also got two pedals here to give you a bit of a demonstration so you can hopefully hear the differences as well. In place of a tube screamer, because I don't own an official one, but this is just a tube screamer copy, I have a Digitech Bad Monkey, which is by far the most commonly used pedal for this sort of thing. And I've also got a Boss SD1 Super Overdrive, which is very quickly becoming one of my personal favourites for doing this sort of thing. So why do we do it? Well, there's a few reasons. The first of which is a tightness and clarity that you get from doing this. Now, the reason this happens is, especially with something like a tube screamer or a tube screamer copy, the circuit filters out bass frequencies, and especially quite extreme bass frequencies, which when you're running high gain can make your sound a bit flubby and loose and just, I know I'm using lots of rubbish guitarist words, but you get the idea. If you get too much low end, you lose the clarity and definition and get quite a flubby sound. At the same time, especially with tube screamers, but with a lot of overdrives, you naturally, with the circuit, get a mid boost also. And this mid boost, again, adds a bit more clarity and a little bit more aggression to your sound. The other main reason we like to do this is because what you're really doing with the settings here is almost using it like a clean boost. I'll talk a little bit more about settings in a second. But what you're doing is hitting the front of the amp harder. Again, maybe a little bit counterintuitively to what you might think, you're not actually doing a lot of clipping in these pedals. Now, what hitting the front of the amp does is a couple of things. Naturally, you're pushing the preamp tubes harder, so you get more upper harmonics, which can lead to a bit of a fuller sound. But it also adds a natural compression, which comes with tube amps when you drive them hard. For whatever reason, this is a desirable sound. And again, it can give, especially like lower chuggy things, more definition, clarity, and just make them sound that bit tighter. And I guess the third and final reason as to why we like to do this with our high gain amps is it just gives you an extra degree of control and just a little bit more tone shaping ability with the tone control. So hopefully that makes sense and that you now understand that with a bit of a bass cut and a mid boost, an extra push into the front end, and just that extra degree of control, it creates a tone that guitarists prefer. Now, I'm obviously mainly talking about things like metal in here where you want that really extreme, harsh, chuggy sound. But this is also a setup that you can use for other genres, as the compression really gives you a nice sustain that lends itself to things like leads as well. Now, a minute ago I briefly touched on controls setups and talked about it being a clean boost. And that's because traditionally the setup for the pedal that you would use with a setup like this is something like this. So you've got a lot of volume, very little gain, and just the tone straight up at 12 o'clock. Now, this is a fairly universally accepted setup, whether you're using Boss pedals or something like a tube screamer or any other pedal for this application for that matter. But that's enough talking about the theory as to why we do this. What really should sell you on this is being able to hear it. So I'm going to give you two demonstrations. For one, I'm going to be using the Bad Monkey, which is again a tube screamer style pedal, and I'm going to be running that into my Orange Dark Terror, which you can see here just behind me. And then for the second demonstration, I am going to be using a Boss SD1 Super Overdrive into a Marshall valve state. Like I was saying, the Super Overdrive is really quickly becoming a favourite pedal of mine to do this with, especially with Marshall style amps that have more of a mid focus anyway to their sound. I just find that it's a really good combo. For both demonstrations, I'm going to be playing my PRS S2 single cut semi-hollow, which has number 7 pickups in it, and I'm going to be using GGD Zilla Cabs Vintage 30 IRs. So we'll start off plugged into the orange, and without the tube screamer engaged, it sounds something like this. So hopefully you can hear there is a bit of that flubby low end. There's already a lot of gain going on, but if I now kick in the tube screamer, hopefully you should be able to hear there's a bit more clarity and that lower end tightens up a little bit. And we're now plugged into the Marshall valve state, which without the super overdrive engaged sounds something like this. And then if we kick in the super overdrive, you get something that sounds like this. So hopefully again you can hear a difference there, and it just gets a bit more aggressive and just a bit tighter, and just, I think more aggressive is the best way to describe it really. And hopefully you can hear a bit of that tone that you so often hear in metal, as well as other genres. But I think that's going to just about do us for today. Let me know in the comments down below what your favourite overdrive and amp combo are for these high gain sort of tones. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.